Happy birthday, Rebel Scum. Figured I wanted to talk a little bit about April 19th, 1775, because that was exactly 250 years ago. And I've been kind of getting into the whole Revolutionary War history thing lately. And so that night we became Americans, and it really doesn't even matter what side of the political, or if you even have a side per se. But we became Americans. We went from like colonialists, I guess, if you will, to being Americans. And so I've heard the story of this night so many times, and I don't know what percentage of the current American public knows the story of Paul Revere, which is probably the most infamous story from that particular night. Even though Paul Revere actually didn't make it all the way to his intended target to deliver the alarm, which was kind of an interesting side quest. But there's probably some of the most iconic statues or memorial. A couple of the statues that are referred to as the Minuteman statues are commemorative of men that acted on that night, April 19th, 1775. And these were interesting men that are worth noting and talking about. Give me 1 second. Poppy to mommy.
Okay, mommy, what?
Release the hound, please. Over.
Releasing hound, over.
Copy, over and out. So, let's get some fresh air in here. So, a few of the iconic people that were commemorated, and kind of after the fact, I mean, there's some revisionist history there. Knee-high! Come! But the one that's at the Lexington, the shots on the green, is commemorative of Captain Parker, John Parker, who was a man who was very active in that first night. And then the other one was commemorative of a man named Isaac Davis, who unfortunately lost his life that night, but had a very interesting story. What's up, puppy? Hey, here's the hound. Yeah, come. So anyway, interesting thing about Isaac Davis and Captain Parker. And notice good biblical names. Isaac and John. Isaac, father of Jacob, the one who wrestled with the Most High and became Yisrael. But I digress. Isaac Davis actually had a vision, or kind of an omen, that was kind of interesting. He was building up for the war, and he had a bad omen, he thought, a premonition. One day when he was coming home from church, he saw a owl in yon actual the barn, and he interpreted that as a bad omen, that if he went into battle he would die. And that night he in fact did die. And the interesting thing was, the story is that when he went out, he actually stopped the whole march and went back and told his wife, take care of the children. And she had also the thought that he wouldn't be coming back, and he didn't. He was actually killed in one of the first battles. And then Captain Parker, John Parker, again, a good biblical name, one of the stories of the good news, was ridden with tuberculosis. and he was sick with tuberculosis and still went out and fought in multiple battles. And the initial one, his cousin, was killed by one of the regulars at bayonets, which is one of the reasons why when he later on that led a ambush that night on the British regulars, they referred to it as Parker's Revenge. And I think probably one of my favorite characters of that particular period that night would be the old man, Samuel Whitmore, a 78-year-old man who had already fought in numerous campaigns throughout his life, fathered numerous children, led a full, rich, good Christian man life, and went out on that night at 78 years old with what I believe was his musket, his 2 dueling pistols, and his saber, I believe it was. And he actually led an ambush, and it's a very interesting story where he actually killed a whole bunch of the regulars, and after he killed several of them with shooting them with his musket, with his pistols, he was actually shot in the face, and then he ended up being bayoneted several times, and the old bastard actually lived. That's a tough son of a bitch, 78 years old, and went on to live a couple more decades, I believe. So it's a very interesting night, and one of my favorite stories, a lot of my favorite stories of the American Revolution come from April 19th, 1775. And for those that are interested, I would really recommend this book, Paul Revere's Ride, because this is one of the ones that I've read. I'll be honest, I bought this on hard copy, but I probably listened to it on audiobook 2 or 3 times now. And it's a very complicated understanding of the man who was Paul Revere and all the other people that were involved, General Gage. It really tells a telling tale. I mean, again, the legend of Paul Revere, that we all know the poem, well, a lot of us that are maybe semi-older, millennial, Gen X and older, remember, is Paul Revere, the poem. But truth be told, he didn't even really finish the story, right? Finish the alarm. It was like a Dr. Prescott. So, what's up, puppy? Anyway, I'm just out here enjoying. I've had a very peaceful Sabbath, Shabbat, doing my Bible studies. It's been a very intensive Bible study today. I actually wrote out in Torah the entire genealogy of Esau, but that's what I do on a Saturday. So I'm just out here on the property enjoying some freedom with my musket. Just put a new bolt in this, actually. It had, it's not really a new bolt, it's actually a bolt that I had left over from an old rifle, a Smith & Wesson, I guess would be a full auto rated bolt carrier group that I swapped out. That this did have a PSA bolt carrier group, which I've heard from several sources actually blow out on you, so I swapped that out. So I'm out here with my musket and my actual main sword, because thinking about colonial times, people would have had swords still and employed the swords, bayonets into combat. And I like myself personally to train on swordplay. Of course, back in those days in colonial America at the beginning of the American Revolution, they probably wouldn't have Filipino swords, but this one is my sword, so I figured that's the one I'd show. Although many of them probably would have had shorter swords than a lot of people think, because those are in many ways more combat effective, but I don't say that based off of experience, I just say that based off training. So anyway, with that, I'm just gonna out here enjoying a little bit of freedom. Just cracked open this here Old Elephant Foot IPA, and it's an India Pale Ale. What is this? It's coming in at 7% alcohol. It's a big beer. Nehai, come. pretty good. Hoppy. Anyway, hope you all had a good holiday week. We've been enjoying the Passover. We're getting ready to start eating sandwiches and hamburgers again here after a few days of eating matzah crackers. And with that, happy Good Friday, happy Easter, salut, shalom.